Thanks for your patience. Sorry we're starting a few minutes late. My name is Michelle Lisowski. I'm a marketing manager here at Google, and I'm here today with Michael Dreyfus, who's going to talk to us about why his company, Dreyfus Properties, decided to go Google. I'm going to start today by giving you a quick overview of Google Apps, and we're going to start by looking at, if I can proceed these slides, here we go. I want to start by giving you a quick background about Google Enterprise, which was founded about 8 years ago and is now a core part of the Google business along with ads and search. Google Enterprise is comprised of roughly 2,000 employees that are dedicated specifically to enterprise products, and then we're also leveraging the rest of the 7,000 engineers here at Google to help bring our products to market. We started 8 years ago with the Google Enterprise Search Appliance, and that was bringing the Google.com search experience to businesses to help them search data behind their firewalls. From there, we moved on to our geospatial products, Google Maps and Google Earth. And we're using those to help businesses do things like asset tracking and store locators. Then in 2007, we acquired Postini, which at the time was our largest acquisition to date. And with Postini, we got industry-leading hosted spam and virus filtering. And that's wrapped around our Google Apps products, which has become kind of a core part of the Google business, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So when we looked at the messaging and collaboration landscape, we saw that there were some fundamental things changing. First, there's information overload. Your users are getting tons of email more than ever. If we look back to 1999, the average employee was probably getting, on average, about 40 to 50 emails a day. Today, some of our power users are getting as many as 500 messages. If we looked at productivity, we were seeing that desktop software was currently being used, but it was designed for individual productivity. It was designed for a single person working from a single desktop. And it wasn't allowing employees that were geographically dispersed to work together. And we were seeing a growing need for this, especially as employees began to access their information from other devices. More and more today, the mobile device, their mobile phones, are becoming the core way that they're accessing information, and they weren't able to do this before. So let's dive specifically into email and talk about some of the pain points there. So when we looked at the existing messaging solutions, email was really designed for life before email. You had an inbox, you had an outbox, and then you had folders that allowed you to file your emails away, similar to a file cabinet. And with the volume of emails that people are receiving today, in the hundreds of emails, that just wasn't realistic. We're finding that on average, users are spending about 15 to 45 minutes a day foldering, subfoldering, and deleting all of their emails. And that's time that's taken away from productivity and allowing them to work more efficiently. So then we looked at the collaboration landscape, and we saw that users were really relying on email to do collaboration. They were emailing attachments back and forth. So take this scenario we have here. I have a Word doc. I decided to share it as an attachment with 4 of my colleagues. Let's say 3 of them decide to send that draft back to me. They each have their own version with their own comments, and I have to take those and I have to consolidate them into a version 2. Then I take that version 2, I send it back to those 3 contributors. They in turn send their feedback back to me, and I compose this into a final version. Then we have someone who's late to the game here who sends me yet another version with more comments. So this slide is really confusing. If it's as confusing to you as it is to me, that's okay, because I think it illustrates the point, which is that this was not a good way to collaborate. It was really easy to lose the right version. Only one person has the final copy at any given period of time, and it's time-consuming to consolidate all the changes. So these are pain points that we were finding existed really across all businesses. And from a technology perspective, there's an enormous amount of hardware and software that you have to maintain to really keep these systems up and running. And if you want to have high reliability, you have to have backups for all of this. And those backups need to be patched and rebooted and updated. And it's an awful lot of management for something as simple as email. So that's why we started focusing on developing our Google Apps Suite. And if we dive into it, it can really be divided into 3 categories. So first, we have our messaging products, which include Gmail, Chat, distribution lists, which you get as part of Google Groups, and then Google Calendar. Next, we have collaboration, and that includes Google Docs, which is our real-time single document collaboration tool, and then Sites, which allows you to really easily build a rich site to add more structure around content and make it easier to share. And these are really the tools where Google's differentiating itself. Wrapped under collaboration, we also have Google Video, which you can think of as an internal YouTube. It's going to allow you to share videos privately within your company. And then finally, our third category is Postini. If you recall back in 2007, this was one of our largest acquisitions, and this is our hosted spam virus and e-discovery tool that is the foundation of apps. So all of these applications are being offered through what we call the cloud computing model. And the reason we chose this model is because we felt like it was the best way to really offer users a choice in terms of devices. So we're building really rich applications that are rich, if not richer than client software. And we're offering all those through the lowest common denominator, which we feel is the web browser. So what this is enabling your IT teams to do is, one, give your users a choice of device. So before, you typically assign a single device to users, and it might not have been their favorite. It might not have been what helps them be most productive. Now you can give users a choice, but you can also minimize your own maintenance and headaches, because all you really have to do is make sure all of the users have the most up-to-date version of the browser. Let's look at why some of our customers have adopted Google Apps and the benefits they've seen. So first, here at Google, we really do believe that apps is the best tool for businesses. And when it comes to handling those large volumes of email that I talked about earlier, we're doing a lot of really interesting things when it comes to the end user experience. We're offering enormous amounts of storage. You get 25 gigabytes of storage per inbox with Google Apps. And so users aren't spending all that time deleting and reorganizing emails every day. We're also building search into all of our applications. So they have huge volumes, not just of email, but just of data, documents, spreadsheets, and they're able to apply the power of Google Search across all of this data to easily find what they need. And then we're doing some other interesting things like Priority Inbox, which launched earlier this year. And Priority Inbox is allowing your users to automatically prioritize the emails that they want to see most based on who's sending them and what they've opened in the past. So then from a collaboration perspective, we're able to do quite a bit because we're leveraging our enormous data center infrastructure. This includes real-time collaboration, video conferencing, language translation, and a lot more. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, but it's worth saying again because it's really a key point of Google Apps, we're allowing your users to access their data from any device without requiring VPN or a corporate workstation. And it's just getting better. So we're constantly making improvements to Google Apps. One of the main reasons we're able to do this is because we're leveraging our 300 million consumers worldwide. It allows us to quickly test new features, UI changes, get feedback instantly, and then we're applying that feedback to make our business products even better. And we're pushing these updates constantly. So, traditional desktop software is updated every few years. We're on a schedule that's updating apps every few weeks. And you can see our commitment over time. We started in 2008 with 68 releases. We ended 2010 with 133 new product feature updates to Google Apps. And we're continuing that trend in 2011 and forward. So you're getting all of this for one simple licensing model. It's $50 a user a year. That's including 24/7 customer support. You also have a 99.9% uptime guarantee. And your data belongs to you. You have the ability to access your data and pull it out at any time if that's what you choose to do. All right, it looks like our slides are a little delayed, so hopefully, there we go. Okay. So security is really a big question when it comes to adopting Google Apps. If you look at our infrastructure, we are the 4th largest server manufacturer in the world, and we're not selling servers. So hopefully that gives you an idea of kind of the enormity of our data centers. All of those servers are being produced for our own use. And plus, our customer data is written in a proprietary Google coding language, and it's broken up and distributed across multiple data centers. So what does this mean? For Google, it means that we're confident enough in our infrastructure to not only run our own email, but also run our multi-billion-dollar ads business on the same infrastructure where we host our customer data. So hopefully that gives you some idea of the strides that we're going to take to make sure that all of that data is not only secure, but also reliable. We also employ some of the world's top security experts, and all of this has been audited and verified by a third party. So we're SAS 70 Type 2 certification, and then we also have a FISMA certification for government. So this is an example of just a few of the more than 4 million businesses that have gone Google, and we have over 5,000 more signing up every day. They range from one-person companies to some of the largest in the world, like Genentech and the Washington, D.C. government. And as important as seeing some of the examples of customers who have used Google Apps, it's also important to hear why they've gone Google Apps. So that's why we have Michael Dreyfus here today to talk about why he decided to switch Dreyfus Properties to Google.
Good morning. So I'll start out telling you a little bit about us and who we are. I started Dreyfus Properties in 2000. We are a residential real estate brokerage, a boutique brokerage that specializes in selling properties in the Silicon Valley. Our clients are the technology leaders and movers and shakers of the Valley, and our product is basically luxury housing. The model for us is a very collaborative, small group environment. And it was very small until a couple of years ago when we started growing exponentially. And in the last 2 years, I've added 16 people. And so in 2006, we looked back and started to think about where we wanted to go and how we wanted to service our clients. And that's when I first took a look at Google Apps. So in 2006, we were basically using an Exchange server. And it was because of basically who our clients were, I was pretty exposed to the cloud apps and where things were going. And so at that time, I stepped back and started to look at, what I wanted and where we wanted to go. And the considerations for us were mobility was a big deal. I have a sales force that's out in the field, and the cloud infrastructure was attractive from that way that we could be out there and we could be accessing things and we weren't tied to our desks. Obviously, being a small business, cost was a big thing that I thought about, and reliability was maybe really the biggest driver at the time. My Exchange server used to go down. It's kind of funny to think back about that because I don't think about going down anymore since I switched to Google Apps, but we had those issues, and I had bought into Google as a company and to the reliability aspects. I was using Gmail at the time, and so it was there was a comfort level in terms of what I thought I was going to get. So,
sorry, Michael, just to interject really quick, we have had a question about email and whether or not it's branded email. So everything, all of your email that you get through Google Apps is going to be at your domain. So these are not at gmail.com addresses. They're custom email at your domain.
And that was very important to us when we switched over to keep our DreyfusProperties.com branding. And it follows through everything that you do. And I can talk later about some fun things you can actually do with creating aliases and things like that. There's a lot of flexibility in how you can use that branding. You can have marketing at Dreyfus Properties. You can have admin at Dreyfus Properties. There's a lot of great things they let you do. So when we decided to make the switch, to be honest, there weren't a lot of cloud options. We were kind of pretty early. I think we were a beta user under Google Apps when it started. There were some Office-type solutions, like doc-type solutions that were online, but looking at Google Apps, the things that really drove us to do it, first and foremost, cost. I halved my costs immediately, and it's not just a cost on a what's it cost per user basis, but it's really the IT infrastructure around it that goes away. And there's some productivity aspects in terms of just not worrying anymore that my stuff's going to go down or something's not working. And so the cost aspect is significant. And even when you do, I ran the whole thing myself initially. It was that easy. Now I'm too busy and I hire somebody, but the level of help that we need is not rocket science, and it's not very expensive to get people that can understand it and do it. And you can actually, if you have a techie employee, they can get up and running and figure the whole thing out themselves on the administrative side. Backup was a big deal in switching to the cloud. I had great confidence in Google in that they would keep my stuff safe, and that's been the case. Reliability, as Michelle talked about earlier, is just unparalleled. We worry about the internet going down, not about Google going down. And so if we have a connection, we're always up and we're always fine. Access and mobility is a huge deal, and also the cross-platform parts of it. And I do remember looking very closely at that when we were deciding to switch. And as Michelle said, one of the great things about Google Apps is it's always changing and always up to date, and that also includes very good cross-platform support for whatever's the latest and greatest. And that kind of also plays into another thing that was a big part of the decision to make the switch, in that Google Apps really allows you to satisfy a very broad range of users, and those of us that manage know that we have people on one side of the tech spectrum and people on the other, and keeping them all happy is always very difficult. And so, your simplest user can get onto Google Apps and actually engage on it on a very basic level, but be totally satisfied. And then your power users can come in with all their new equipment and all their stuff and be going in Google Labs and just be happy as clams while they're getting in there. And that was a real driver for our decision. And then the last part is the sharing and collaboration. Our model is collaborative. We are kind of turning residential real estate on its head from being individual agents in an office that sort of do their own business to people that work together. And so the ability to share calendars and docs and spreadsheets and everything was a big deal, and Google Apps was there from the start on that. So today I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing and how we're using Google Apps. A lot of you will probably just focus on the email part of it, which is important. And the reliability part of the email is what's so awesome about it. Also, the fact that as the years have gone by, we struggled initially sometimes with people crossing over when they started working for us and they were coming off like an Outlook platform or something like that. As the years have gone by, people seem more comfortable every day with cloud stuff, and Gmail on the personal side has such ubiquity that I think that's also helped. So people can hit this thing on day one, never using it before, and they can send email and they can read email. And that's important. It's that intuitive that they can get going. Once you get into it, like Michelle mentioned, priority inbox, and you get into Google Labs, and there's lots of power using that you can do. I, for instance, am using the assistant capabilities, which are recent, which allows an assistant to go on, look at your email, respond to your email, and it says it's not from me, but it is from me, but my assistant has done it. And there's just lots of depth to where you can go. And what's funny is once you start using Google Apps, I think you can say, I have this problem, and then you can go to it and you'll find a way to solve it. We've got into Google Docs we use for collaboration. Very simple example that, again, goes to Michelle's earlier schematic of everybody responding by email and docs going back and forth. I drafted up a brochure description the other day, and as I drafted it, put a note in, was this house really remodeled in 1999? It wasn't, it was 2000, and my assistant made the change. When I went back to look, it was done. It was just, it's a simple example of something that happened very quickly that probably would have taken 5 or 6 exchanges of email to get wrapped up previously. We're using Google Voice quite a bit as part of the suite as well. Suddenly, you can get yourself a free Google Voice number, and we use that number on signs and ads to sort of track our what the responses are to that. It's an interesting marketing concept that you can have this special phone number that, by the way, does get copied to an email, and you can have several people looking at that all the time. So we also have sort of a 24/7 number that's being checked that we can also follow up on. And then the last thing that's been really fun for us is Google Video. I actually recently subscribed at significant expense to a video service to have the ability to do video chatting with clients, and it's a very good service. It allows us to do lots of people at the same time. But the irony is, I keep going back to Google Video because it's so easy, and my clients tend to have a Gmail address, and in a pinch, it's an easy way to reach them, and it's a great way to reach your people. If they're on their email, you just click on a button, and next thing you know, you have a face-to-face chat. And so that's been something that we're getting into more recently and having a lot of fun with. So that's sort of our experience with Google Apps. Again, I think for those of you that are thinking of making a switch or looking for reasons to go, this slide sort of highlights what really has been great for us: the ability to scale the system, because we hire people. When agents come over, it's a scary environment. They got to move quick, and we have to get them ported, and we've been able to do that on an administrative level quickly within minutes. Reliability, obviously, we've talked about, but that's actually the most important thing for all of us. And then the cost effectiveness, the familiarity when people come in, and the mobility and cross-platform stuff I talked about. I can't stress enough how great it is to have this work with so many different platforms. And the last point was just sort of interesting because that the large storage space for attachments was thrown on there by my graphic designer who did these slides, and it just sort of points out how he had this problem, and Google Apps was there for him. When he was having trouble sending stuff around, he went to Google Apps and he found, hey, I can just send out these large attachments through apps, and that solves my issues.
Michael, can you give a few examples? You've talked a lot about mobility, and I'm sure in your field you have a lot of agents and people out in the field who are having to access their data away from the office. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of how your workforce works, where they tend to work from, and just some common scenarios for them trying to access data outside the office?
Sure. My workforce spends 85 to 90% of their time out of the office. They're constantly in the field, and they're constantly mobile. In their cars, in people's houses, looking at houses, and so it's a big deal that they have the ability to not only do email and stuff, but also going back to that example I just gave about doing an edit on a Google Doc. I did that edit on my phone. I was actually in a client's house and another client's house, and that was something that had to be resolved. I looked at the draft. I made a few changes on my phone. I asked that question about was it really remodeled in 1999, and that all happened on my phone. And the other really interesting thing that I'm finding is that I have a little bit older workforce. It's luxury real estate. It's a relationship business. People are my agents are a little bit on the older side, so they're not young, techie kids. And I'm finding that those type of people are much more comfortable with their phones than they are with the computer. And so it's actually a comfort level thing where they're just not scared of their phone. I don't know what it is, but you put a keyboard and a computer in front of them, they lock up, but you give them a phone and they just start pushing things. So it's that I think is really not only important, but it's clearly where everything is going. It's to the point where, and I've even talked about iPads and things like that, and we're using Google Apps on all that as well. But that ability to be mobile is not only important, but I think what we're all going to be doing. I don't think we're really going to be looking at these computers soon.
Thanks. You also talked a little bit about using Google Video to share videos easily. I heard recently that you use video to show a home. Can you talk a little bit about that example?
Yeah, I was showing a house, and a lot of my clients are obviously relocating. I mean, this is the Valley, and people are always coming in, and they're coming from faraway places. And I was showing a house with the husband who was in town, basically to negotiate his package to move. And once that happens, things start moving quickly. And we were looking at a few houses, and they were trying to make a decision if they were going to come or not. And part of that was, what's it like to live there? What do houses look like? And so I was in a house with him, and we basically got his wife on Google Video and started showing through chat and video, started showing pictures of the houses live. And what was really interesting is they engaged in a conversation through my phone. So it was fun. And I think that's obviously just going to get more and more use as the product gets better.
Great. Well, I think that's all for questions for now. Do you have any closing words?
No, we're very happy with your platform. And again, I think the biggest compliment I can pay to you guys is I just don't think about it anymore. I don't look to move anywhere. I don't worry about it. I just keep basically looking for what you've rolled out last week.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That'd be a wrap today, but we are going to stay on for about 5 or 10 minutes and take any other questions you might have. So feel free to put them into the chat box within the WebEx UI. And thanks again, Michael.
My pleasure.
Have a good day, everyone.